No, man, but you got to keep going. What am I going to do, quit? That's not an option. You got to keep on keeping on. Life's a garden, dig it? You make it work for you. You never give up, man. That's my philosophy.
All right, all right. Welcome, all my garden enthusiasts and passionate plant people. Welcome to the Urban Gardener channel. And basically, no show today. It's just me and you, and some conversation about a few things here I'll talk about. I've got on my mind. In fact, one issue just was going on right now. I'll talk about in just a minute or so here, too. But everybody, welcome to our Saturday morning, basically time slot, I guess. This is just a regular live stream, no guests, no show really. But yeah, I hope all of you are doing really well and everything's going great in your gardens. It's that time of year. I'm sure all of us are now doing something in our garden spaces. Tell me all about it. I love to hear about it right in the comments section there. And also, if you are here with me joining too, hit the like button for sure. Click thumbs up there, and also subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and share with all your friends. Leave comments, do all of that sort of stuff to really help us out with video and show engagement. So definitely leave some comments, especially if you're coming back to the show after checking out part of the live stream. I know a lot of people kind of join up a little late and then they come back and watch. If you're doing that, or if you're just joining us on our replay as well too, big huge shout out to all of you as well. Definitely, even if it's just a hello, just let me know what you got growing on, any sort of suggestions for the show, anything like that. Definitely get down into the comment section below and let me know about that as well too. And yeah, a big huge shout out to all of you replay watchers too, who are watching us at a different time other than the live time. But again, if you are here joining us live as well too, if you get a chance to come back to the video or anything like that, leave comments. Comments are really, really important to the show because that really helps the YouTube algorithm suggest our show out there to more people and get more people coming and following along with us and join with us on our show and our gardening conversations. So definitely, if you have any questions or comments, especially today, you know, I'd love to hear about those as well too. And we'll talk about that along with a bunch of other things that we've got going on for the next hour or so. We'll see how things get going, and then we'll see where things go from there. But again, just one of those days where I kind of planned a little kind of a rest, or or let's just say it was one of those weeks where we were having maybe not really booking issues. Just, I mean, I decided this actually weeks ago. It was just one of those dates that was just kind of coming up empty every time we were looking ahead towards getting guests. That, and hopefully we'll get some other ones filled up too. But that's the sort of idea going forward is, if we don't have a guest planned or scheduled or something like that, I plan on just coming here, doing a live stream with all of you and basically hanging out during our show time. And again, this is where we can talk about anything growing on in your garden and all of that sort of things that are going on with you, any questions you want to ask of me, that sort of stuff as well too. Let's see who we got already in our chat as well too. We've got Rob joining with us. Rob, great to see you from the UK. Love it. Love to see you each week here, Rob. You're always great showing up, watching our show. And of course, we've got with us Jay Dixon, our moderator, greatest moderator on YouTube. I'm telling you, just awesome to have Jay with us here. Thank you, Jay, so much for all that you do to contribute to our show and help out. It really does mean a lot. So thank you so much. Looks like we've got Serena Norell, who's in here as well, too. Awesome to see you, Serena. Thanks for joining in. Let's see here. Jersey Girl. Hi, friend. How you doing? Good to see you. Good to see you. Oh, look at this here. We've got Wickershire Project. Got off the phone notification and ran in. Good excuse to get out of the heat today. Oh, he's got some heat going on. They're up potting tomatoes and peppers. That's awesome. That's awesome. I've got to get my tomatoes in the ground. In fact, peppers too. I'm telling you, I'm going to wait maybe about another week, I think, for the peppers. But tomatoes, I'm going to start getting out now too. I've got a good enough forecast and a look ahead now as we're moving into May. And it's only getting warmer and warmer for us as we're at the ends of that forecast. So, there again could still be something that happens there, but I think if anything, our tomatoes should be able to take care of or survive whatever might be an issue, and I can cover up some of them and that sort of thing. But I'll wait about one more week just to know more for sure what it's looking like as we approach our last frost date in the second week of May. So I should be able to know that actually just within this next week. So really kind of exciting right now to when it comes to gardening, because it's just about that full on plant everything kind of time right now. There are some other things that I do like to wait for the soil to get just a little bit warmer to do, like cucumbers and squash and those cucurbits and things like that I direct sow into the garden. So I like to make sure that my soil temperatures are nice and warm. That way I can just be sure that my plants are going to be off to the right start. So yeah, we're so close to everything getting growing. It's really, really great. Let's see here. All right, real quick here. So I did want to show you guys. I'm going to see. I did talk about this last week. In fact, let's talk just a little bit real quick. I want to kind of run through this just a little bit here as well too, because if you are joining with us and you didn't see last week's show, we had with us Ashley Thomas, Mocha Gardner. Just wonderful, awesome conversation. In fact, part of the conversation that we were having last week is something I wanted to talk about a little bit more today. In fact, we touched on it with Linda Vodder a few weeks earlier as well too. And so a little bit later on the show, I'm going to talk a little bit more about what I'm calling common ground gardening. So we're going to talk a little bit about that a bit more too today. But a great conversation last week as well. We got to catch up with Nathan and his dad Robert. Their new channel, actually, they're doing together this year, is Steam Puzzle. Last year, Nathan was on the show with us as they were doing a channel called Growing with Nathan. And really great to have them back. Really great to catch up with Nathan again. Just a wonderful young kid. And they just expanded their channel into a little bit more of kind of that science, technology, STEM education type stuff, as well as the gardening and agriculture. We talked all about all of that sort of stuff and kind of made it something that really fits really into what Nathan's really interested in too. But they still continue to grow all the plants and garden and do the hydroponics and all of that sort of stuff and some fun things. So it was really great and fun to catch up with Nathan again last week too. So definitely, if you haven't had a chance to check out those shows or you missed those shows, go back and check those out. And then, like I said, leave a comment too. Help us out with those interactions and all of that. And then on our Sunday edition this last week too, we did our first book club with Ellen Zakos, the author of Forage for Wild Foods Without Dying. It's a really great book. It just highlights 40 edible wild plants, and these are just some really great, easy to identify plants for people to go out there and start their own foraging journey. And we had just an awesome conversation with Ellen on last Sunday's show too. So definitely go back and check that out as well. And we also announced on last week's book club, our next book club, which is going to be our good friend from the UK, Tony O'Neill's book, Simplify Gardening. And that'll be next month's book club. So if you haven't got the Simplify Gardening book yet, or if you do, and even if you don't, definitely come and join with us on the third Sunday of next month as well too. So it's every third Sunday of the month. We're going to be basically holding our book club meeting, and that's co-hosted by my good friend Mark Boucher Colbert, and it's really kind of fun. Both of us get to kind of ask questions and enjoy the gardening books and some books that we featured. I know we got a lot of authors on the show already and all of that, but we thought it would be fun to kind of feature a singular book each month and then kind of have a fun conversation with the author. Me and Mark both really enjoy books, and especially gardening books, because we're such big fans of gardening and all of that too. So definitely look forward to Tony's book, Simplify Vegetable Gardening. It's a really great book. In fact, I've already got a copy of it. It's full of some really awesome gardening knowledge. I mean, and so again too, on the title of what the book, Simplify Gardening, Simplify Vegetable Gardening. It's simplifying all of these aspects of gardening in such an easy to read way, and I think it's just a wonderful book, especially for new gardeners. So definitely check out that book as well too. Um, So yeah, I got several things going on right now that are on my mind, and I can't really kind of pick and choose or think of what order I really want to talk about them in. But I just actually was a couple of minutes late here getting the show started because I was just dealing with something that's really kind of on my mind right now. Is I have so I'll just go. I'll tell you all the story here too. I'm just checking in and making sure everything's going good in the chat here. Awesome. Excellent. I see everybody's already talking. Wait. Oh, wait. I see a question here real quick. Wickershire Project, thanks for the question. How tall can a pepper plant get? Are there some big varieties? How tall? 4 feet, 5 feet, 6 feet? Hey, great question. Great question. Well, here's the thing about peppers is that most of us in most climates grow them as annuals, meaning we're starting new plants each and every year. Now, some of us who are a little more plant hobbyists and or experimenting and doing things with peppers will bring them indoors. In fact, what you can't see here right off camera is an indoor grow room. It's one of those grow tent grow rooms, and in fact, that's going to be my plan. I did this several years ago when I first got the grow room. But I'm going to actually get it all set back up again. It's we stopped kind of using it for growing, and now I've got it open back up, ready to go. I'm going to get some new lamps in there, and then I'm going to try to overwinter some of the varieties of peppers that I grow. Now, in the case of overwintering and doing that sort of thing, kind of in general, some people, if they're looking just to get their plant through the winter time and ready to grow for next year, they'll cut them all the way back. One of, I think, the great ideas with overwintering some plants is if you want to kind of produce peppers and do that throughout the winter time, you wouldn't cut it all the way back. I mean, you cut it back some, and you would definitely wash and cut back some of the root base as well, and wash off the soil and all of that from outdoors in order to clean off any sort of, like outdoor pests or any sort of potential problems you could be bringing indoors. So definitely, so this is something you'd wash and completely clean your plant down, and then replant it in basically what I have is separate indoor potting soil I use for all the indoor plants. And so I would do that sort of thing, bring it indoors and then get it under the lights, and then it'll start growing back and we'll get a bit bigger. But in those cases, we're only really getting the plant so big, so big, and we've only got so much space when it comes to even indoor gardening and indoor growing. But pepper plants are actually, in some climates, perennials. In fact, I've seen some pepper plants grown like in, I believe in Arizona, down in Texas even. And in fact, we even talked about this a little bit with Ed Curie, Smoke and Ed from the creator of the Carolina Reaper and the Pepper X pepper, when we had them on our pepper weekend a few weeks back, kind of talked about that down there in the South, they can grow their pepper plants as perennials. And there's some varieties, and I'm not sure exactly which varieties, and that's something that you probably have to research a little bit further. But they grow them for up to like I've heard like 6, 7 years, even longer, and can get as big as trees, 6, 7, 8 feet tall, and just bush out and produce just massive amounts of peppers, and do that and just keep growing throughout the year and keep producing throughout the year. So that's as far as I know on peppers, that's possible to grow them into these big plants, but that's going to be in those types of climates, warmer climates, where they're not going to have frost or freezes during the winter time that are going to be too damaging. I mean, pepper plants can get down to some pretty cool temperatures without really causing much damage, but anything cooler. And again, we'd have to do the research. I couldn't tell you for sure right off the bat, but I know that they could probably get down into mid 30s without a problem, you know. And if you got those types of winters that are only really getting down to that, I think you could probably get away with having a perennial pepper plant and grow it out to be very big. And I would think that would be most pepper plants in those sort of areas too, will grow and get bigger and bigger. But I'm sure, based on variety, just like with all different varieties of peppers, they have their own different characteristics, and I'm sure some only get a certain size versus other sizes as well too. But great question there. I love it. I mean, I like the idea. I never really thought about it too, as I was early on growing peppers and even overwintering some of my first peppers. I never really thought about those climates where they could grow pepper plants out, you know throughout the winter time, and keep growing them for year after year as a perennial. Yeah, I would love to live in a climate like that and to be able to do that. That would be so awesome, wouldn't it? I mean, peppers are one of my favorites, so you know, so it just it would be so awesome to be able to see them grow throughout the year. Let's see here. Okay. Oh, yeah, see right here, look at that. Thriving and Thrifty Homestead, they are perennials. I have peppers that are 4 years old. See how awesome that would be? I'd love to have some peppers that are 4 years old. Yeah. Oh, and Connie joining with us here as well, too. Awesome, awesome. Okay, let's see here. Oh, and then he was asking again too. Let's see, long-lived pepper plants. When perennial is allowed to grow, does the outer stem get woody? I would imagine. I mean, I would imagine that more and more up the plant, and maybe this is something that I'm sorry, I want to make sure. Thriving and Thrifty Homestead can answer too about their 4-year-old pepper plant. Is that um, I would imagine they get woodier and woodier the older the stem gets. That's pretty much as happens on the lower base of most of the plants throughout a single gardening season. So I'd imagine that after a few years, it's getting woodier and woodier, even up the plant as it's getting older and older stems. So I'd imagine that would be the case, definitely. Let's see, Jay was dropping in some information. Pepper plants can grow anywhere from 1 to 10 feet tall, but most will grow about 3 to 4 feet in height, which I'm sure it's just basically, our annual growth. 3 to 4 feet is pretty general. Plant height depends mostly on the variety you are growing and plant care practices. Absolutely. Yep. And that's a big truth of it. A lot of plants, are, we're talking soil. We can't stress that enough. Good soil makes good, healthy, thriving plants. So, the better our soil, the better care we're giving to our soil, the better our plants are going to be doing. Again, other factors, how we're, watering, those sort of feeding, just how we're taking care of our plants is a big factor on how well they're going to produce ultimately, and especially with pepper plants. Yes, chase it right there. Become a soil farmer. Exactly. That's what we're really trying to do. I mean, we grow and have fun with the plants, and I love the plants and all of that, but we got to make sure that what they're growing and what they need to survive is what we're actually minding the most, and that's the soil, because it is so important to our plants. So it has to be the most important thing to us as gardeners, if that's what we're looking for, is success in our plants and growing really awesome plants. Right on, right on. Okay, so yeah. Here, let me have some coffee real quick here as well too. So before the show, I go out and I try to walk around and take a look at things, and just kind of see how things are going outdoors before I get started here on air. And outdoors, what I have is a neighbor, and if people who watched my show for long enough might know, but and I've talked about this before in years past as well, but I have a neighbor right here, because we grow in an alleyway, which, right back behind here, behind this wall right here, is our alleyway that runs alongside of our house here, or our place here. And right in the middle, there's two alleyways that come together, that kind of tee up in the middle of our block. And right at the tee, which is just right out here on the corner of where I live, I have a neighbor that has a kind of an angular shed for their RV. And they always are trying to angle this RV in this tight space to kind of get it into this RV shed. But the problem lies in the fact that, they have to move and get their truck around and move it in just certain ways in order to angle this RV. And right along my place here, I have like this little yard. It's just kind of a little yard right outside of our side door here. And then heading back towards where the back patio is, we kind of have like this little slope, as the side yard kind of is a little slope as well. We have this little slope where I grow some of my tulips. In fact, if you watched last week's show, I started the introduction with a kind of a little video view of our fire tulips that we have out there. So I've got the tulips right there, and then there's like this little PVC drain pipe that I put in to go out to the alleyway from the cement patio up above, so it didn't flood out the area. I have it draining right out down onto the alleyway, and also there's a drain spout, and so any sort of excess water on heavy rain can just kind of drain right down there. Now, at the end of it, it's broken. And it's broken because of last year having the same issue that I was having with them just before getting started with this show here. So kind of riled up about it a little bit right now. But again, I try to make sure I keep a good, friendly attitude with all of my neighbors, no matter what I really have to deal with ultimately. But it kind of stirs me up just a little bit with them, because I've been dealing with this year after year after year on different things. And it's just the same situation. And and again too, I tell them, I understand that they're trying to maneuver in a tight space, and it makes sense, but the last couple of years he's been getting his truck up onto my yard and kind of driving up into that space where these tulips are, and crushed that PVC pipe last year. And I had some of those little garden lights too, to kind of light it up in the evening, and because it just makes the garden space look really nice, especially throughout the alleyway if it's all lit up, showing all the, all that sort of stuff. So we have these little, those little solar lights, and so last year they crushed the PVC drain pipe, and so that's been one of my projects. I need to fix and get a new one put in there. Luckily, I didn't do it yet, but and then one of those lights. But then I go out there just as I'm noticing, hearing them coming through the alleyway with with the RV, and here he is pulling right up, right, getting ready to come right up onto my yard again, and drives over one of my hose nozzles this time and breaks one of my hose nozzles. And I'm just like, oh. And last year too, the lady, the wife, was like, well, we'll pay for it. We'll replace the drain pipe and the light last year. And then I was like, whoa, you ran into my hose nozzle. As I'm like kind of like holding my hands up, like, hey, whoa, that sort of thing. And I'm like, "You ran over my hose nozzle this year. It was, this was last year." And she says to me again, well, we'll pay for it. We'll replace it. I was like, well, you're not going to do that because you told me that last year for this, which you never came back and did. So, again, too, I try to keep it as, I mean, I'm frustrated, obviously, but at the same time, I'm not trying to be overly upset about it. And she's very sorry about the situation, of course, too, and the husband's in the truck just upset as all get out that he can't make the turn, and it's not working out right, and they're having these issues. But I'm like, I understand completely. I just can't have you driving the truck up onto this yard or up into where I've got these tulips planted and everything too. And so that was right before the show. That was right before I was getting going. So so again, too, always something fun, always something interesting going on in an alleyway space like this, when you've got to have constant you know neighbor interactions and things of that sort of nature. And especially, just having that kind of odd situation. And if you ever seen in some of my videos, I've shown it before, but it is this really kind of odd little angle that they could just barely turn it and pull it into what is their backyard. But it's just oh, and he really got upset about it today, though. And again, I tried not to be as upset, though. It was my yard and my stuff that ultimately is what he was having to not drive on. But the fact that I was out there, I was trying to be nice as possible about it, but at the same time, you're kind of being forward about the fact that you can't drive up onto the actual yard. But and again, like I said, it's just something year after year. Sometimes it's the other angle on the other side of the alleyway where we have some sort of plants and pots and stuff like that. And I've always told them as well too that I'll go out there and I'll move those for them. I'll help, just to come by, knock on my door real quick, before you get started doing anything, and I'll come out and help you guide what things and do that sort of thing as well too. But I think he's got a lot of pride or something like that and doesn't want to have to do that. And so each and every year we've got some sort of little bit of issue. And again too, it's not going to be that hard for me to replace the pipe and take care of that sort of thing. And it was one of those dollar something little garden lights. Yeah, the hose nozzle, yeah, maybe a little more bummed out about, I suppose. But we'll see. We'll see. Who knows? I mean, I did tell her that, this is the second year in a row that they told me they'd pay me back for it. So maybe they might come by and say something, but I'm not holding my breath over it. Again, too, like I said, it does come as a part of living on an alleyway and having and using these sort of spaces. They're just kind of really out there like that I run the risk of all sorts of stuff. In fact, just actually the other day, I had my neighbor right across the alley has he does business, lawn care, that sort of thing. He has this trailer and he loads some things in and out from his what is his backyard that backs up to the alleyway there. And he was just loading and unloading some things, which is fine. But there was a couple of kids that come riding through on their bicycles, so they'll get up there and ride right up onto the yard in order to get up around his truck and everything too. And again, it's just stuff in the long run, I'm not too worried about, especially like the bicycles might rip up a little bit or something like that, but it'll regrow. And it's just, big truck like that just makes a real imprint on a yard you don't want. So do have to make sure I kind of draw the line somewhere. Let's see here. Oh yes, in fact. Okay, so here's a thing. I see this here. Not sure. I'm trying to want to go back a little bit further, but I see something I want to address real quick. Thriving and thrifty homesteads. I'm not sure why I can't see anyone else's comments. Is because I do have this streaming out to Facebook right now. So if you're out on Facebook right now, I don't think there's very many viewers that are actually watching on Facebook right now. So you're not seeing the comments from everybody who's watching on YouTube right now. So this is streaming both to Facebook and YouTube. So if you wanted to join in with the conversation with everybody else, I hate to say, and what I really need to do too is put links into this show in here for Facebook as well too, so that you can find your way here if you're watching on Facebook and not seeing everybody else. I wish that they had a way of integrating comments. That's the one problem with being able to do that. I just wanted to be able to make sure that people who watch or see things through our Facebook page and all that can see our streams as well too. But we do run into this problem, and I wish they had a way to kind of change that part of the interface through StreamYard so that everybody could see everybody's comments on both places. But I'm sure that would take some work for them to figure out. Let's see here. I want to go back a little bit, make sure I'm getting everybody here. Yeah, oh, and they were also telling us about the pepper plant. Yes, the main stem does get the diameter of about a quarter at the base, so a nice good 1 inch or so at the base. You get a nice thick base to them at 4 years. The new growth is what produces peppers. Yeah, and then again too, like I said, and I'm sure it gets woodier too up the plant as you get older and older stems. Just really similar to any sort of bush or tree or anything like that as well too. Um, yeah, and Serena was also mentioning Gardner Scott has a video on overwintering pepper plants. Yeah, exactly. Definitely check out Gardner Scott channel for something like that for sure. I mean, he's definitely, if he's got a video on it, he's definitely going to get you some good information on that sort of thing. Let's see. Wickershire was asking again to are pepper plants water hungry, seedling, full grow, and then when fruit producing, how would you go about watering schedule? Really, again, too, watering schedule this is a tough thing about watering and figuring things out. Is a lot of it is just can be really based on the plant and it's how much it drinks. Really, some plants will drink more than others. If you'll ever notice, like even on like your seedling trays, that some of those little cells will go drier faster than others because the plants will drink up just a little bit more faster than others. So sometimes, some plants, I've seen, and I haven't seen really much of a difference even within the same variety, as some plants drink more than others. So it's kind of a different thing. I just kind of let things, again too, on that general basis. I let the plants drink a little bit. You know what I mean? So we're looking to maybe let them dry just a little bit. Like in my containers, I'll let the top dry out just a little bit so that when I kind of scratch the top of it, it's kind of like, just dry a bit. And then I can feel that just about, as I'm getting about within that 1st inch there, I can start to feel that it's getting a little moist in the center there. Then at that point in time, that's when I'm going to, with my water wicking buckets, I'm going to fill up the bottom base of the reservoir so that they can drink up into it. And that'll help them saturate as much as they want and need. Or if you're watering from the top, as with any sort of in-ground plant as well too, then I would do a good watering at that point in time. And then again, with good draining soil, really in some senses, with good draining soil, good drainage, that can happen. It really can be kind of, I hate to say it, but in some ways hard to overwater because it'll drain out most everything that's excess and hold on to and retain what it needs, and then the plant will drink from there. And then again, you go about the same thing, waiting until. So, I mean, I just kind of eyeball it, and in some cases, you can create a schedule based on, well, it's every couple of days you're noticing you're doing that sort of thing, and that sort of. So, and that it's in general with most all the plants that I have. And again, too, heat. If it's warm and hot, I'm just watering, man. I'm making sure everything's nice and wet, and keeping it keeping things nice and moist throughout the garden, throughout the day. And again, too, it's always best, really, too, especially in those situations where you're dealing with a hotter climate, to have like a watering system that's just automated, and you know, a drip system or soaker hoses, or some sort of way that you can set up a water timer and make sure that you know, things are staying nice and wet during the hottest parts of the year too, just to make sure that they have plenty of water to drink, and being able to kind of stay cool in a way too, you know, by having that regular watering throughout the day, even in a drip system, kind of helps the root system stay a little cooler. All right, let's see here. Trying to keep up here, but oh, Jersey Girl saying I would put up a corner fence. Yeah, it's just, yeah, it would be kind of, a fence really wouldn't go well in that space. It's just, so it's just something, like I said, I have to deal with, and in the long run, you know, it is what it is when it comes down to it. And in the long run, I've got extra hose nozzles, and these sort of things, and you know, maybe they pay for it and take care of it. I don't know, but we'll see. We'll see. It also, the spike strip works well too. Yeah. Actually, so here's the thing, and what I was, when I first saw them out there, I just anticipated, you know what I mean? I saw this happening. This is another part of the frustration I had, I think, as well too, is that I saw it happening before it happened, you know? So my what I was trying to do is kind of running back onto my back patio real quick to grab up a bucket that I was going to put right in that spot, so that, you know, here's a little barrier, here's something, you'll hit this bucket before you hit anything else. And before I could get the bucket and get back to that spot and put it there, he had already pulled up onto that hose there too. So that's another part of that as well, that I think is what made it really kind of a little more frustrating for me too as well. Right on. Nice. Let's see here. What is your preferred feeding method of NPK? Almost full grown, then fruit producing. Again, too, we simplify gardening around here. I don't complicate things at all. That's one of the biggest things about where I find my best successes, is just keeping things really general. So I don't go in for all these extra different kind of ideas, or looking for certain numbers of NPK or anything like that. I will just generally go find a general organic all-purpose fertilizer that has a bit of each NPK. This is something I learned from Gary Pilarchik years ago, and I just stick with it. It works really well for me. And so if I'm feeding anything in previous seasons, mind you, too, because we're not using any organic fertilizers in our garden spaces this year, because I'm trying something different out for what we're going to do in our what we do for feeding. So I'll just use, and like I said, in all previous years, all-purpose fertilizer. Now, IV Organic has a great all-purpose fertilizer, dry organic fertilizer that they sell as well too, that I've used last year. Worked really well, gave me some great looking plants. I think it does really awesome. In previous years, I've used others. I had another company I was doing something for a couple of years ago that provided me a bunch of their organic fertilizer that I use. In fact, I still got some of it left that I could probably use up or something. I don't know, but and again, just a general dry organic fertilizer, and use that, and get pretty good results from it. Um, Plus, again, too, we have some of the composting situations that I've got. I try some, you know, we've got a composting bin that I use, an actual like garbage bin that we use to compost in. I've got a side yard, little kind of like just standing that I just kind of pile up yard waste and things on, and then harvest the compost from once a year. We are setting up a new kind of hot compost system, which I've never done before. So we're going to set that up. I don't know if I'm going to be utilizing that this year or not, but again, that's another part of really taking care of the soil. And what I'm looking to do for soil maintenance is making sure that we're having those supplements to the soil through our compost and through the compost that we're creating right here on our property, so that's what we're kind of supplementing our soil with and feeding our plants. Basically, we're feeding our soil so that our plants can thrive in the soil. This year, though, as I mentioned, I'm not using any of that dry organic fertilizer. I am going with worm castings. I'm producing my own worm castings this year. We started our own worm farms this last fall. In fact, I'm already about to, and I got to make a video on this too. And so I'm hoping to get working on that here. But we're ready to harvest already from the first batch of our worm castings that I've got from the stuff that we've grown ourselves. But what I'm going to do is we're going to take the worm castings we've got, and we're going to make worm teas. We're going to make a worm tea, a compost tea, and we're going to set that up with an aeration system and all that. And I'll do a video on showing you all that, how we set that up and how we're going to do that. And that's going to be the only feeding that we're going to feed our plants throughout our garden. And we're going to hopefully, eventually too, talking with the neighbor, maybe have some chickens that we can set up in the back area, and we'll start supplementing our compost with those sort of things. And if you have those sort of things, are great. So we're just looking for these really natural type of things that we're supplementing our gardens with, and then trying to really build a really natural organic soil that's just really thriving with a lot of life, in it. So I'm again, I try to keep it as simple as possible when it comes down to it, and I'm not trying to overthink anything when it comes to growing stuff. As far as do I need 10 phosphorus right now, or do I need potassium, or high potassium? There's some things that like when you're that you want a little bit more of, but if you have a generally good balanced soil, your plants should be able to find all of those things when they need them. So instead of worrying about giving it to them at certain points in time, if we've got really good soil, your plants are able to find those things when they need them and when they're looking for them. All right, let's see here. I know I go on and on about this stuff here. I need to keep up. Well, he says we shall be hand watering as needed when talking about the watering there too as well. Yeah, believe me, I like a great automated system. It's something I got to get set up better. I do have that and have used that, but I also like just being out there with the hose and watering things. It just can be a bit much during the hottest parts of the summer, and that's always when I'm wishing I'd had gotten things set up and working right. So that's my goal this year, is to make sure everything's working right before we get to that time of year. Let's see. Oh, Nancy's with us here. Awesome. Good to see you. I'm late because I've been working in the garden and lost track of time. I mean, it's so easy to do. So easy to do. I know about that. I've got to make sure I got alarms set for certain things, and I got to set more alarms for other things that I haven't, but I'm finding that's what I really need to be doing anymore, because I'll lose track of time real easy. Let's see, Janet Cruising Homestead joining with us, asking, how do you set up automated water system in raised beds? Again, too, you just get a nice well, to get the water timer, comes right off of your hose system. You got to have a water pressure regulator too, because you don't want to be putting full pressure through a system like this. So you want just a certain amount of pressure that goes in there. So that's something you want to make sure you're setting. And all this has got to be about how big and what you're setting up to. So you might want to do a little research, check out some good videos from some others who have done that. I haven't really gotten mine completely set up. I set up one and I had a bunch of little failures with it. So I think when I make my video later on this year, when I set mine up, I'll kind of, be covering and talking about some of the problems I ran into. And that's making sure, and that's just making sure, again, water pressure was an issue. I had a lot of blowouts and stuff, and making sure that you're using the right type of little drips that you want to use for certain things, so that because each one has different amounts of water that they're releasing over a certain period of time. But again, just a good water timer though too, and you can buy some even little kits. So if you have a small kind of setup of some raised beds, you can buy these kits too that have everything you need for just an individual raised beds. But yeah, again, too, something I need to do and get better at myself is setting up the water system, because I'm telling you, like I said, I like to go out there and hand water. I like to make sure, paying attention, because it gives me a chance to pay attention to each individual plant that's out there. That's one of the things that easily can happen too with an automated system is, oh man, the system's going. It's, it'll take care of itself. And then, maybe you have a blowout somewhere you didn't notice, and and a certain part of your garden doesn't get watered like it should. I've had this issue, and so you want to be checking on things and making sure constantly, if you do have one of the system, that you're constantly looking at it as well too. Let's see here. Serena was saying that she's got feral cats that like to use, and I know about cats, believe me, use garden beds for yeah, believe me, I have a cat that does that. In fact, he's actually in the house today. I'm surprised he hasn't bothered me yet while we're here live. But usually he doesn't. My cat doesn't mess around with the beds too much. But what I've found though, and I had to actually get the local cat organization out to get a cat removed from my alley over the last couple of months, because my cat became friendly with him, and I couldn't get the cat to. I mean, he's just feral. He wasn't going to have anything to do with me, but he was digging in my garden beds. He was doing a lot of cat waste, and if you know what I mean, in the garden beds, and it was getting to be an issue. And usually, George or my other cat, Dexter, will chase off other cats that are coming through. For the most part, it's their territory, and they'll chase off most cats. This cat, though, for some reason, they became friends and we're hanging out and all of that. And I really didn't mind it too much, other than the fact that he was just tearing things up really bad. And at that point in time, I just felt it was better that we did something about possibly, making sure that he was, for one, not able to reproduce. So it was best he went to the local cats organization that we have here. So probably better off. Let's see here, and what you're talking about there too, about putting little spikes and stuff in there too. That's a great method to do that, because cats will too. They'll return to the same spot over and over again. And I get those, like, you can go find cheap what is it, Chinese food, little wooden chopsticks, and I'll stick those into the ground as well, right around the whole area that they're having a problem in. As long as you just make it uncomfortable for them to come back to that spot, they'll go find another spot. But then there comes the problem, and this was the issue I was having with that cat too, is that I would do that and I'd get him to move, but he would move to another spot I didn't want him to be in. So yikes. Yeah, pests are pests, man. Another issue, about the fun of gardening, is there just things out there that really want us to have problems and give us problems. And cats can be one as well too, as much as I love my cats. Oh yeah, and Blue Wolf joining us saying, "Now I know and understand why those old men were so protective of their yards. Get off my yard, kind of guys." Imagine of years like, and yeah, in the long run, I can see that, and I feel that way sometimes. Although I try not to be that guy, really, when it comes down to it. But yeah, that's not not the type of person I really want to be. But sometimes I feel like it. Rosalind McGard would say, "My wife puts up a lot with me, but she would draw the line at a worm farm in the back garden." Right, right. I know. I guess I get away with a lot by being single, but oh yeah, right on. Let's see here. Trying to go through everything here. Everybody's having a great conversation here. Got Grows It Alaska, Junior Grows It Alaska. Just saying hello from Alaska. Weather is warming up here. Sunny, sunny, sunny. The urban gardener. Yeah, yeah, it's warming up. So you got to be well into your what we called breakup time. We called it breakup up there. I used to live in Alaska. I lived in um, outside of Soldotna, Alaska, in a little township called Kasilof, Alaska, a family property out on the Kasilof River. And we looked forward to breakup every year because that meant that summer was just right around the corner. But boy, oh boy, it can get really muddy and wet during the breakup period of time up in Alaska. Oh yes, and Serena was mentioning here too. Good idea for the raised beds out back right now. Since nothing is planted, I have extra wire fencing rolled up, laying in the beds. So uh, laying in the beds to prevent the cats from using them. So yeah, if you put some sort of like fencing, even some chicken wire, whatever, some sort of stuff, roll it out, cover up the beds while you're not using them, that won't get into them. But here's something I found that worked so well for all of my beds, because and I just chopped up a lot of our leaves. And in fact, I went out and found leaves from neighbors that were getting rid of their leaves last fall. And I just really made sure I covered everything this year, covered every one of my little pots and beds and everything with this chopped up. And I used the lawnmower to chop up the leaves into the lawnmower bag. And then I saved up a bunch of bags and just covered everything everywhere. And wherever I left, like, and I mean, we're talking like good 3-4 inches of this all over the place. And the cats did not get into any of that stuff. I mean, what they're looking for is like a good, like sandy dirt, open dirt. You got any open spaces anywhere, and they're gonna find those, and that's where they're gonna get in and get on things and up and in around your plants, and stuff. So mulching with leaf mulch is really great way too, as well, to make sure, because they're not gonna want to get in and mess around inside of leaf mulch. It's just not the type of texture, I guess you would say, that they're looking for when they're looking for a space. So I found that where they were bothering some spaces in some places, where I had the deep mulch everywhere, was completely left alone. Let's see here. Everybody's, yeah, we'll go with Alaska. It's like breakup brings excitement. 100%. Yes, exactly. And saying they're from Anchorage. Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. It's been a while since I've been up there. Went to high school there. Actually, it was really, really a fun and interesting time to go to spend those early high school years up in Alaska. It's really fun. Yes, and Lincoln Jay is also mentioning too that I am for 500 bags containers. That's a lot. That's great stuff. Leaves chopped down to about 50. So 500 chopped down. When you get down to about 50 of them, and that deep mulch helps in so many ways. Yeah, I mean, for one, it's a protection for your soil, and again, not just from, the elements in winter and all of that, but again, some pests and problems you might have with digging or other types of flame, especially the cats, like I said, really worked well. And then as they break down, this is just going to break down right into your soil, adding that organic material. And again, coming back to the idea I was talking about a little bit ago about keeping things simple. You know what I mean? By just doing that sort of simple thing I'm doing in fall when I'm getting all the leaves falling and all of that, and I'm collecting them up and I'm spreading them around. Um, I'm doing this simple thing, protecting the soil, but then also feeding it as well for the next season. Let's see right here. Oh, Serena's saying that they're in tornado watch right now. I've been hearing about that. So I hope everybody's safe out there in tornado land. Uh, Although I've said, and I don't, I think about that, and when I think about people and the destruction that they do, but it's just so fascinating sometimes about what nature can do, and I've never seen a tornado in real life, and that's just one of those things that I just would love to see, just see. But I want to be a good distance away, and I would definitely like to make sure, would love it to be one isn't so destructive to other things, but that's really hard to have. That's a huge storm, and can really wreak a lot of havoc, those things. But yeah, fascinating though, how nature works like that and can do that sort of stuff. Let's see here. Jay says, why did Mother Nature design the main vegetable harvest to be the same weeks as autumn leaves to gather? Yeah, exactly. Nature knows what's going on, man. That's why, yeah, that's why we want to kind of just mimic as much of it as possible, and whatever sort of things that we're doing are kind of on those natural type of levels of doing things, and that's what's going to keep, I think, in my belief, a more thriving garden. You know what I mean? And again, it comes down to what we're doing and feeding the soil and creating whatever sort of natural situation for our soil, so that we're creating as much life in that soil, because there's so much more life going on underneath our feet than what is going on above our feet, or above our feet, but above the ground. But yeah, there's just so much truth to doing that and looking at that sort of stuff, like Jay says, Mother Nature, and again too, it just makes so much sense that it's time for this sort of timing, that dropping leaves at just the time. And again, it just makes sense. It's what the trees are doing. They're dropping them, and if we weren't there to move them or collect them, they would just be there doing whatever they do to protect them and all of that. Although I am one of those people that I'm not going to be out there too much. Although I do encourage people to change your front yard up or your lawn space or anything like that to garden beds if you have that opportunity and ability to be able to do that. But I fault nobody who wants a nice little lawn if that's what they want and comes down to it, and are going to rake up some leaves in order to protect their lawn from leaves, because if you do let leaves fall on your lawn, you're going to have some issues when it comes down to it. But do something with those leaves. Mulch them up like I do with mine, and use them for all of your garden beds, and create some really deep mulch for those garden beds, and really help out those growing spaces that you have in it as well too. So awesome. Let's see here. Yeah, Nancy says, ooh, be safe, Serena. That's right. Nancy's out there too in tornado land as well too. So you all be safe out there, wherever that is. Let's see here. Serena with a joke. Why did the gardener hire a plumber? to fix the leaks. Yes, yes, indeed. Right on, right on. Yeah, yeah. So right on. So yeah, we had the neighbor's RV. That was fun. Get everything all started with and everything too. One of the things I did want to kind of talk about here before we get moving, or as we get moving along here, time is just actually flying by. We've already been on for about an hour already, so we've hit that hour mark. We'll move on for just a little bit longer here. I will kind of talk about these other things I want to talk about, and I'm just going to touch on a couple things just real quick because I will be talking about more of these things, especially in the next coming weeks too. But Bonnie plants, plant starts. Now, I fault nobody for utilizing plants. In fact, one of my favorite people on YouTube I used to follow for years and still do. I mean, he's just one of my good friends nowadays, John Kohler over at Growing Your Greens. He grows a lot of plant starts. He's a busy guy. Some people live really busy lives, but they want to grow a garden. They want that natural homegrown food, and it's really important to them to do so. So they'll go out and buy starts. Now, John will go out there and he'll really work hard to make sure that he's sourcing his starts, not just from the best places where you can get the best possible plants and starts from, but also to make sure it's more economical for him as well too, because this is one of the issues with plant starts. And really what I'm talking about here is that plant starts can be really spendy, and they can also get to the point of spendiness where companies and some plants and even bigger large scale nurseries take advantage of gardeners. And this really kind of riles me up too when I start to see some of this stuff. And Bonnie Plants has been getting on my nerves for the last couple of years. And it used to be actually that they would grow some stuff and some things, and I would even consider if I hadn't had some success with some of my cucumbers, and I tried growing them from seed or something, and I was having some issues, but I really want to make sure I was growing some cucumbers, especially my favorite lemon cucumbers. I would go and I'd grab, if that was the only thing I could find, I'd grab one up and I would do that and I'd put it in there and grow it out just so I'd have something of that sort, growing in my garden. But over the last few years, though, too, I've just noticed more and more that the prices are going up for these plant starts in a way that just doesn't make sense for me. And not only that, there's selling things that I just don't think are, and some of this really goes to and I'm sure that Bonnie might have, I'm sure, some sort of a wholesale agreement with, say, Home Depot or one of these other larger big box stores, Walmart, places of that sort that sell Bonnie plants, to make sure that they're only selling the higher quality ones. But and so I think this also falls on some of these bigger box stores and their responsibility as well too. But you'll see plants, especially like lettuce, you'll see being sold out of a 4-inch pot for $5 or $6 now, where you're only getting a couple of lettuce plants. But here's the big one that really gets me, is that these plants will quickly go to seed, especially being in these containers out on these racks in the sun, possibly not getting watered regularly or properly enough. So there's going to be stress that some of these plants, and especially plants like spinach, lettuces and things like that, that really stress like that's going to really induce going to seed and going to induce them bolting. And then this really kind of bothers me as well too, is that these stores will continue to sell bolting plants to gardeners. These are new gardeners more than likely, because they don't understand the bolting and what's happening to these plants. They just see that it's lettuce. So in the long run, I look at this as taking advantage of a new gardener, because they're going to take that home, they're going to grow it, they're going to wonder what's going on when it starts producing seed, and they try to eat it and it tastes horrible. and is going to give them really a not so good experience right off the bat. I just saw, in fact, what made me think about talking about this for a minute or two here, and I'll probably talk, like I said, talk about this a bit more in coming weeks. But I just saw a post really before I was starting the show as well too, a little bit earlier this morning, of someone showing Bonnie seed start or Bonnie starts of carrot starts. Now, and I've seen these actually in a couple of other places as well too, but any sort of root crop, turnips, carrots, radishes, these sort of things, you don't want to buy in starts. You don't want to do that, and nor should anybody be selling people those things in starts, because it's not you're not going to do well. Those plants aren't going to do well. That's not how they need to be direct sown into your garden. And what they're doing is they're trying to make a quick buck off of people who don't know any better, who are more than likely newer gardeners, who then they're setting people up for failure. And that's one of the worst things that can happen to someone who's just getting into the hobby of gardening, because it's usually how it starts for a lot of people, as a hobby, and then we start learning a little bit more about what gardening is, and and again too, so that's kind of the issue there. It just really kind of starts to bother me even more, not just the prices that they're selling these plant starts out at in these places, but the types of plants and the condition of the plants and these sort of things that they're selling to people as well too. So really, if you are new gardeners out there, it's just I think this is something I'm going to be emphasizing a little bit more, is be very careful and wary of that sort of stuff. Really find good local nurseries when it comes to buying plants and plant starts, if that's what you're going to be doing, or be very aware of what it is that you're growing and you're purchasing, to be sure that what you're getting is either something, like I said, if a situation like I need and it's the only place I can find, it's the last minute, everything else hasn't worked out for my seed starts that I've got, and I need my lemon cucumbers, and the only thing I can find at the last minute is these lemon cucumbers. I mean, yeah, I can see that. You know what I mean? I'm probably gonna do the same thing. But you want to be just really, really aware of the types of things that you're getting into. So definitely that. And then the other thing I want to talk about too, which is, here it is. It's that time of year, because there's a lot of people who've already been gardening and they're well ahead of us. I'm just going to be getting my tomatoes out into the garden spaces here within this next week, as we're going to be approaching my last frost date. But some of us have seen a last frost date already. We've already had our tomato plants out for a while and already starting to see fruits on the plants. So when we start seeing fruits starting to form on some of the early plants in the more warmer regions, in the gardening groups and all out there in all of our gardening social media, we start to see the dreaded blossom end rot posts. And if anybody knows me, follows along with my channel, I like to keep things simple. I like to know that there's a lot of ins and outs to gardening. There's really, we can try and experiment with a lot of certain stuff, but there are some things in some science in gardening that's are really kind of what they are. And in some cases, when it comes to blossom end rot, can be very misrepresented by a lot of folks out there who are just doing a lot of what we call and I encourage as well too, traditional gardening. And I'd say traditional gardening in the way I'm talking about, in tradition, in following in with what, say, our parents have taught us, our grandparents have taught us, and those sort of things. And in some of those cases, there are certain things that that maybe your grandparents, when they think of blossom end rot, or they think of other sort of issues in the garden, they think of eggshells, or they think of other certain things, and these sort of things that are go-tos for these sort of situations that we learn in some sort of in that type of gardening, and traditional gardening, I'd like to call it, hand-me-down type of gardening, if you will. You know what I mean? This is stuff that we're learning from someone else with that sort of experience. And so, and I understand that for the most part, but what we've learned more and more over the especially the last at least decade of gardening is more and more about this dreaded blossom end rot. And again, too, I don't want to say and be telling anybody that eggshells are bad. They're not. In fact, eggshells are great. Break them down. I always recommend breaking them down as fine as you can get them. Add them to your compost pile. Spread them around in your garden and all of that. But know and understand that eggshells do and will provide some calcium. They'll provide some other types of elements and things to your gardens as they break down, but they take a long time to break down. This is not something you just add to your garden to fix something that's happening right now. And one of the big things about blossom end rot is that, and you'll see this in every post, it's calcium. It's calcium deficiency. It's a calcium issue. You'll see calcium over and over and over and over again. And that is where I think the rub comes in when it comes to understanding blossom end rot. It is a calcium issue. Absolutely. That's what most every person is right about out there. But it's also how we understand what the calcium issue is where things kind of go astray when it comes to understanding what's going on with blossom end rot. So blossom end rot is a calcium deficiency, but it is an acute a calcium deficiency, meaning it's happening directly to the plant because the plant is not able to uptake the calcium. It's not that there's a calcium deficiency as in the available calcium. Now, this is one of the one you're more than likely not having an issue in most gardens out there. In most soil conditions out there, you are probably not dealing with any sort of calcium deficiency within the soil. And especially when it comes to blossom end rot, the deficiency is not in the soil. The deficiency is in the plant itself because the plant can't take up the calcium. This is where the whole understanding of what's going on with blossom end rot. Most of the time, plants will self fix this issue, and there are certain varieties that are more susceptible to others. Paste tomatoes, for instance, San Marzanos, Romas, those sort of things are going to deal with this maybe just a bit more than some other tomatoes. I've had it happen on most tomatoes. Cherry tomatoes, very least likely, although I have actually seen it on some cherry tomatoes. Um, but so when it comes down to it, um, this is the point is that it's not that we need to add calcium to our soil. And adding calcium isn't going to help the plant with the deficiency of calcium because it's just not able to take it up. It's having an issue, and this is where all of the research by most all of the papers and the research you can find on this from most of the university extensions out there that have really done some great studying on this is that it comes mostly down to watering and water issues, and sometimes it's overwatering. Sometimes it's underwatering, and in those situations, we're creating what we call lockup in the roots. The roots kind of lock up; they stop their ability to take up some of these really essential nutrients. It kind of locks up, and they're not able to do that. And then when the conditions change, so say if it's overwatering and the things have dried out a bit more, the plant is going to kind of self fix from that. But whatever's affected is affected at that point, and there's not going to be any sort of solving that. If you have blossom end rot on that, the most you can do is really kind of cut off the really bad parts, maybe feed them to some chickens or something like that. If you have that, maybe add them to your compost or something like that so that they can break down and become soil later on. Find some way to kind of regenerate it, that sort of thing. But um, right here, let's see here. I want to make sure that we're following along here too. There. You're better off throwing a whole broken egg into your garden. Yeah, I mean, I guess. I mean, again, too, like I said, I don't want to discourage people from putting and utilizing their eggshell scraps into their garden. I mean, they will provide nutrients and break down in your compost over time. Really, all of that sort of stuff is more likely going to be available for plants in your next season, not this season. And let's see here. And also, Jersey was saying paste tomatoes are hard to grow. Yeah. Let's see here. Yeah, Worcestershire right here too. Maybe nutrient locked over fertilizer to dry soil, lack of beneficial microbes, and plant competition of other heavy feeders too close. And there could be some, in some cases when it comes to that, definitely could be issues. And really, when it comes down to it, most studies have shown that it's really watering, and that's where tomatoes are just finicky plants. Tomatoes really aren't as easy to grow, so for most people, as we like to think. Um, Janet Cruising Home said, "Is that in the DNA of the plant for blossom and rotting, or is it water?" Yeah, water more, not necessarily the DNA. Although, again, too, like I said, some varieties are more susceptible than others. So there's got to be something in the, possibly the DNA of those individual varieties that make them more susceptible to that sort of nutrient lockup. Yeah. Let's see here. I have a Vitamix, so I wash and dry out my eggshells and put them in the dry mix blender and blend them into a fine powder for composting. Exactly. That's the best way to do it. That's what I recommend. That's what I do. Just break them down, pulverize them down the best you can so that they do break down faster. But even as pulverized as you get them, they're a very hard substance. So it's still going to take time for all of these other microbes and these other elements within the soil to break them down and then make those nutrients available to everything else. But definitely use them. Definitely put them out there, you know. Let's see here. All right. Let's see. Share project again too. Saying providing calcium to blossom and rot equals you already lost the race. Add fresh compost. Um, Restart, maybe not. I mean, it just depends on the condition of your plant. Like I said, for the most part, just changing the soil conditions, the watering conditions itself is going to kind of give your tomato plant it's the ability to basically fix the issue itself, because all it really needs to do is get those roots able to start uptaking those available nutrients in the soil. So you just kind of want to change the conditions, and it's just with watering. If you're noticing it's just too much water and the soil's really wet and you're just regularly watering and you're seeing the blossom end rot, then you might want to pull the watering back a little bit. But if you're letting things get a little too dry, maybe you want to add and start watering just a little bit more, and then you'll see the plants and the later fruits that the plants start to make. Then you'll start seeing those without the blossom end rot. And again, too, there are, like it says here, too, disease-resistant varieties, too. There are, again, some that are more susceptible, and then there's varieties as well on the other end that are less susceptible. So definitely do some research about some of those varieties if that's an issue that's really wreaking havoc for you in your garden. Definitely try finding some of those more less susceptible varieties. Let's see here. Okay, yeah. So that's touching on those things a little bit here again, too. Just cruising right along. So awesome to have all of you here today with me. We're just kind of hanging out. It's a no-show day, as we call it. Basically, no guests today. We're just kind of hanging out, talking about a few things here and there about just a couple of things that are on my mind. I'm thinking about right now. Whatever's on your mind as well, too. If you do have any questions or anything like that that you might want to ask as well, too, I'll do my best to answer them. Again, like I said, there's some things I might not know. And that's one of the things I love about having this channel and doing this show, especially, is that we have so many awesome very knowledgeable gardeners who come and join with us all the time, and we get the chance to, to kind of tap into their knowledge and dig into a lot of the stuff with them and get to know stuff. So I get to learn even more and more as I go along to through getting to talk with all of the great people that we get to have on our show. So again, too, just really great to have you all here today. Let's see here. Question. Serena asks, what causes white film on tomato leaves when plants are still in the house? A white film. This is something I haven't seen, and I'm not sure of. Again, too, kind of come to the point. I like to answer the best I can about this sort of stuff, but I have not had this issue, anyways, of having a sort of white film on my tomato leaves. I do get, definitely like the tomato leaf die off. Some of those first leaves that start to get to produce as the plant starts getting growing bigger. Some of those really early plant leaves that grew out when they were young start to die off. So I get plenty of that sort of stuff, and they just kind of go yellow and die. But I've never had a white film on my tomato plants. Maybe someone else has, or might have an idea of what that might be. Definitely something. I'll try to remember this one and note this question too, maybe, and ask Gardner Scott this question come Monday morning, because I want to mention to everybody as well too that and I almost forgot about that. Here we are so far into the show, but Monday morning I'll be on with Gardner Scott on Gardner Scott's channel. So if you want to come and check out Gardner Scott's channel this Monday morning, I will make a note to ask about white film on my tomato leaves and see what Scott has to say about that, because that's interesting. I haven't run into that. And you're also and definitely here we're talking about indoor plants. So this is you got your plants growing indoor, getting ready to go before they go into into your outside garden. So yeah, again, I'd like to find out about that, just in case maybe I do deal with that. Maybe that's something I might see some other time. All right. I love it. Jay, thank you so much. Try to make sure, keep me moving along. I love it. What did you have in mind by mentioning common ground? Yes, if anybody saw the title of our show today, and this is something that's kind of come up, and I've thought about actually during this last fall. I was having some conversations with some people, and we were talking about it, and this subject kind of came up a little bit here, and that's when I kind of thought of the idea and the term common ground. And especially when it comes to this situation and scenario. Now, one of the things that we're dealing with here coming up, especially for us in the United States, I know this is, in Canada, in UK, and other viewers from other parts of the world are observing things, and there's also issues going on in more local situations to people, and no matter where they live, we're seeing these sort of things, in a certain way, but especially right here in the US for us, because we've got an election coming up. And boy, oh boy, do we, want to be careful when we're treading on the ground of politics and religion, right? Isn't that a big warning? and I know the warnings. We're going to try to be very careful here as we move forward in this conversation. But this is the issue, and this is why this is something we need to be talking about. And this is something that I've thought more and more about as I've had these other conversations. And in fact, was brought up a few weeks ago when we were talking with Linda Vodder on our show. She was a guest a few weeks ago. It came up then, and then also came up when I was talking with Ashley Thomas, the mocha gardener, this last week. Now, And again, this is just when, things are the way they are. I mean, you can't go on social media in any sort of way. And I do my best that I can to curate my social media. So when I'm on Facebook or I'm on Instagram or I'm on one of these other social media platforms, I do my best to make sure that all of the content that runs through my social media feeds are mostly garden related. And I keep it to that subject, to other things around the gardening world. I like, people who grow giants, so I'll get into those communities, pepper communities, you know, uh, just different things that are kind of all generally around the gardening community itself. And I curate my social media that way so that I don't see as much of all of that other stuff that just really just can really just get at us, the way we see some of the behavior and the way people talk and they handle themselves, especially on social media and especially around politics. And it's going to be harder and harder to get away from this stuff as we move closer and closer to election day. And that's why I think that it's kind of really important for us to be talking about this a little bit more, especially for those of us in the gardening community, because this is, we're really the purveyors of this common ground. We are the overseers of this common ground. And I think that's something I think that I've found mostly in gardeners as well too, is the ability to start a conversation in the garden and then have it lead into other conversations. And no matter where it goes, we have had this base of a connection with each other that I have always had decent conversations with everybody, even though I've had gotten into conversations with people who have differing opinions. And that's a big thing. Once opinions start to change, people start to get a little, a little aggressive about that sort of stuff. And when it comes down to it, I think ultimately that one of the things, and I like to do this, and I like to think that this is something I take a little bit of pride on. As I said, when I get into conversations with people around my garden, no matter where the conversation goes, we always keep it, based in our common ground right there in the garden. The garden, we people garden no matter what our backgrounds are, no matter what our cultures are, no matter what we believe or think, whether it's, religion or politics or all of the things that, we can have opinions about. We all love to garden. We all love to grow. No matter, what our backgrounds are, what our thoughts are, that there's a common fascination with the gardening space, with this growing spaces that we create and curate in our gardens. And so I think it's important that, we utilize that space, and especially for those of you who have community gardens out there. I mean, community gardens. This was, and I've had some community garden plots. And this is where I really found this to be really essential, because I had a community garden plot, just, it's not too far from here, just a few blocks away. Um, that had a lot of different gardeners from a lot of different backgrounds, a lot of different things. In fact, I had this garden plot during some of the previous elections, 2 elections ago even. And it was one of those things that I found was really interesting, was that when I would have conversations about some of these things in other places, conversations wouldn't go as well. But anytime I would have these conversations in and around a garden space, they always were decent conversations, even though we had differing opinions. And I think it comes down to the fact that we have this common ground space that we both, we start from something where we really are connected with each other. I mean, when when we have that passion for gardening and enthusiasm for our growing spaces, like a lot of us have, then that's the great place for all of our conversations to start, and for us to start having conversations again too. So I think in a lot of cases, when it comes down to it, I think our gardens and this common ground is a great place for us as people to find ourselves as people again. and connected with each other again, and that sort of and that sort of stuff as we move forward. Especially, invite your neighbors into your garden space and have some conversations about things, and especially, and and keep the conversations, based around that common ground mostly. Even if you venture into some areas, always bring it back if it goes into, what I mean. It's just, the point I'm trying to make is just that this is kind of essential, that we don't lose touch with the fact that we're all connected brothers and sisters of humanity, for one, when we're talking about worldwide, but especially when we're talking about more closely, the locally is what I meant to say. When we're thinking about things more locally, when we're thinking about things, especially for us as a nation in the U.S. coming up to this election coming up and all of that, is that if we can find that good common ground with all of our neighbors and all of our people around us in our communities, and show people how valuable a garden space can be, I think that that there's a lot of influence in keeping us connected with each other that can happen from the garden spaces. And I think that's really important moving forward, because I can see a lot of crazy directions that a lot of people are talking about out there, about things. And I think ultimately, when we really bring things down to what is the most important to us as people, food and eating is really one of those big things. And when it comes to food and eating, we've got to grow it, and it's got to come from somewhere. And I think the things that we find in our connection to nature and our connection to growing in that as gardeners, I think there's really something to pass on and to influence and to share with others in order to keep keep that connection alive with everybody around us. And I think the garden space is another one of those reasons that makes our garden spaces so that much more special. They're really special places when it comes to a lot of things. We have a lot of people on the program and the show that talk about, how when they go to their garden space, it's a great mental health thing for them, that they find relief from, from work stress. If you got a busy full-time job, and you get the opportunity to get into your garden and plant and do certain things, then you find that relief from all of those other stressors in life. When it comes down to it, we find that relief in our garden spaces. And again, too, it's the same sort of thing when we're dealing with the outer situations and issues going on beyond us, outside of our control, really, in the larger context of the world around us, that we can find relief in our garden spaces as well from that stuff too. But not only can we find that individual relief, we take it the next step forward with our common ground gardening, and we're inviting people into that space. We're inviting people who, might share and carry different ideas into that space, to be inviting, to show them and create those connections with other people, and especially in our communities. I think about that a lot more, though, too, even for me, when I've got my space is so public facing. I'm growing right along these alleyways. We're about to actually think about and grow or grow, but to put in some garden beds in our front yards. We were actually out this last week talking about some of that too. So, that's going to be even more public facing. That means I'm going to have people, even more people, who are going to be noticing this space and coming through and talking about and having conversations with me and that sort of stuff, and creating that welcoming common ground space where we can have a place where we can connect with people, and to be able to share and have discussions and grow forward, with our community and others around us, even family too. I mean, this is one of the biggest things. Family is a big one. We all know out there, families can be fickle, and and there could be a lot of issues, that we have, even when it comes to, the religion and politics and all of that, we could find right in our own family. So maybe through our gardens, we can find a even better way to connect with those we find indifferences with and all of that too through our common ground gardening in our own gardens by inviting family members who we might not be as connected with and show them and show them garden spaces because I find that it's a space that even if people don't garden they like to come check them out they like to see that stuff they like to participate in it so even if you're welcoming someone in who isn't a gardener into those spaces it's a great way to connect and to share with others so I hope I made some sense there when I talk. I'm just babbling on about this sort of stuff because it's just something that's on my mind a lot right now as I think about it, But like Nancy says right here, yes, we are all connected. The important things are to respect the differences and to love and care. Yes, exactly. I mean, we're just we're all just people trying to get along in a crazy world that we're all just still trying to understand even there's so much we don't even understand about it and the better we can connect with each other the better we can we can make it through this craziness. Yeah, yep. I see everybody again too. I love it. Love everybody having a great conversation. Jersey girl right here. Now you're pushing it with family. Exactly, right? But maybe that's where we start. I'm not sure, but I'm right with you there. I mean, family is a fickle issue for me, for sure, in my life. I don't talk too much about some of that stuff, but it really, really is. Let's see. Oh, Serena, nor else does. Yeah, this is coming up next week. May 4th is World Naked Gardening Day, which I also believe is a show day for us, and don't expect that on this show. Nobody wants to see that here, so we're not going to be. I'm not participating. Yep. Rick says elections are close. Yep. And Rick, I believe you're from Australia, so again, too, got to be interesting. I mean, I know you got your own elections, your own things going on there as well, too. But I know it's interesting for a lot of people from where I live here in the U.S. To definitely be here dealing with it. But I'm sure that all of you folks from around the world who watch in on what's going on here are probably just as interesting. Let's see. Oh, Big Wes's lawn care right here. So people used to not tell who they voted for. Yeah, I mean, in a way, I suppose in discussion, but I mean, we've had, political yard signs since the earliest days of that sort of thing. So there's been a lot of that sort of stuff in that way. But definitely I think the point of the devices is a big issue. I mean, I think this is something that we are definitely trying to work through is how we as people handle not just the technology. The technology, again, it's like a lot of things. I mean, we talked about those GMO purple tomatoes a few weeks back. It's that they're here. Technology is here. It's not going anywhere. It's about how we interact with it. It's about how we figure out how we use them as a society, as a people, as that sort of stuff. So when it comes down to it, it's really on us to be able to figure out how to handle this sort of stuff and handle ourselves better, because a lot of it comes down to, like you see on social media, people can just be different people when it comes to being on social media. They can be more bold. They can say things they wouldn't say in normal conversation, and I think that's another part of why common ground gardening, why that idea is big, and I think it's profound in its own way, is that what it really is doing is getting us back to just talking with each other. Really, when it comes down to it, finding a space where we find equal common ground, mutual interest, and then starting the conversation from there, and then just get used to talking to each other again, because everybody's just talking through devices anymore and utilizing a device persona versus your actual person and who you actually are, you know. It's kind of why I like being so, right here on camera, so forward. This is live. I just, in some ways, it's just get out and just be yourself, and do that sort of stuff. And if you come to my garden, it's a common ground, and this is a great place where we can connect as a community. Okay, let's see here. Let's see everybody's. That's a very good extrapolation. 100%. Yes, indeed. Thank you. Right on. Exactly. All right. So let's see. Sam asking, anybody finding any morel mushrooms? I know they grow all over. People are out hunting right now where I live here in Southern Oregon. I'm not a mushroom guy myself, but I know people are out on the hunt right now. I have friends who do. And Wickershire's like, I wish. Yeah, they're out hunting right now here in my area. Right on, right on. What's it? Sam says, I ran one over with the mower last weekend. Oh. Connie says, so many people are losing the ability to talk to each other. Love what you just discussed. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And again, too, and it just comes down to that, it's just kind of observation and thoughts from, seeing where the direction of our world and things are going at this moment. And this is just kind of one of those heightened times where I think maybe we just pull back a little bit more, especially those of us who are gardeners, and again, too, those community garden spaces, so for those of you who live in cities and places that have community gardens, and again, with our family and friends and community, it's just a great place for us just to kind of maybe push back again from the devices and the social media a little bit and utilize this common ground space in our garden just to kind of start conversations again, and no matter where they go, I love it. Grow Big TV joining with us. Driving, can't type but listening. Right on, right on. Hello to everyone. It's awesome. Good to see you, Joe and Corky from Grow Big TV. Loved the conversation you had with Gary Pilarchik this week. That was really awesome. We'll be having Gary on, and hopefully here soon on the show as well here. I love this. I'm here to peek in Enix brain like a vault robber. Well, I mean, you can pick what you can. I'm not sure how much there's really up there, but again, I'll share what I know. I'll share what I know. That's for sure. That's for sure. Jersey Girl also saying, I don't like mushrooms. Not much of a mushroom person. Here's the thing, though. Again, too, sort of like there's plants that I love to grow that I don't eat and I don't like. You know what I mean? But I love growing them. Mushrooms have actually become kind of a fascination for me. I'm fascinated by them, fascinated by fungi and what it does when it's working in connection with, microbes and in the soil biology and all of that sort of stuff going on. In fact, it was just the other day, my neighbor brought over a plant to me, and it had some little mushrooms growing in the pot, and they were really worried, like, what do I do, oh my god, mushrooms are taking over my pot. And I was like, oh no, that's really great. And really it was because they had a woodier type of potting soil, that's got a lot of wood chips in it. So those as those are breaking down, that fungi is going to form, create some mushrooms. And I was like, no, that just means that your soil's breaking down, that your soil's coming alive, so that sort of stuff's great. There are are funguses and plant funguses we want to be aware of and we want to watch out for and that sort of stuff. But when it comes to our soil, and especially if you see all that nice white mycelium growing all over the place, that's just beautiful stuff. That's just what you really want to see. And because of knowing that and learning more about that through gardening, I've become more and more fascinated with mushrooms, and even though I don't like to eat them, I've been thinking about more about even getting some mushroom kits and growing some mushrooms just to try it out, just to have some fun with it. I'm sure I've got some friends who love mushrooms and would eat some if I grew them, and I can just get the fun of growing them and trying it out. Let's see here. Yeah, Janet Cruising, like I said there, I love mushrooms, but I'm so afraid of growing something that would hurt me. There's no way I would grow it. Yeah, I mean, you just really there's so many great, like really good, reputable places where you can get good spores from and all of that of some really great mushrooms out there. So, I mean, it would be to me. I think it'd be fun. I think it'd be great to do, especially if you could find the right good types. But I totally get what you're and understand what you're talking about. In fact, that's kind of what we were talking about, and I mentioned this earlier in the show. Last week on our Sunday edition show, we had our first book club with the author of How to Forage. Let's see if I can put this up real quick here. How to Forage for Wild Foods without dying. We had Ellen Zakos on with us, and that was one of the things that we were talking about is that foraging and mushrooms fall in the category of foraging. There's a lot of varieties out there, and we want to make sure that we're not going to be taking any health risks, because if there's anything that's going to be poisonous or we're going to find some real issues with, it's mushrooms. And there's so many lookalikes of other things and all that sort of stuff. But definitely, there's a lot of really good, reputable mushroom suppliers out there that have these really great, cool, fun mushroom kits. They're becoming more and more popular nowadays too. I've been seeing a lot more of them too. So those I'd check out if you wanted to kind of try to eliminate some risk for sure. Let's see. All right, excellent. Yeah. So awesome. Again, we are getting up here. It's about time here that we wind the show down just a little bit. Oh, you know what? I did want to talk about one last thing before I forget about it. All of you who are so, I guess, lucky to hear me talk about it anyways. Talk about how lucky I am when it comes down to it. Right off here to my right, which I guess is your left, maybe, right? Is this right here, if you see it. In fact, I got some pictures to show you. I'm going to show you some pictures here. I am so lucky right now, and I talked about this last Sunday as well, too, but check this out. Let's see here. This is my corn plant that is right next to me. See right here? It's actually right on the screen here, which is so cool how it popped out and in the perfect spot so that it would show up on screen. But here's the picture. It's this stalk that's grown out of one of the stalks of our corn plant. And this flower here comes out, and it's got a lot of what you'll see is like the little tiny little, looks like little spikes that are coming out there, but those are all just little individual little flowers that are on there. And they're just about to see, if you see those little white tips that are poking out of them, they're just about to open up. In fact, they'll probably open up in the next day or two. I know it's starting to release some of the, I'm just going to call it sap or whatever it is, but it's in the flowers that literally I came home last night and came in the door, and it was the first time, and I knew, because I knew they were there, but I've been waiting. Like, you would just walk in the house, and mind you, my door on the other side of the house too. Open the door, and it's just boom, I can smell it. It just puts out the most amazing, amazing fragrant smell that I've ever smelt on anything, whether it's a flower outdoors or a flower indoors. And this here, growing off of our corn plant. So hopefully I'll capture some pictures when the actual flowers pop out, so I can show you what it looks like maybe next week, when hopefully the flowers will pop out and we can see what they look like. But yeah, just to me, I think it's one of the most exciting things that can happen in my indoor plants or all of that, is when I get to see a cornflower plant. I've gotten to see it a couple of other times, and the first time was years ago. Years ago, I had a different corn plant in a place that I lived in, and it flowered. I didn't know. I didn't even know it flowered. I had no clue until I came into my house again, like I said, one day, and just got bombarded by this just most amazing, amazing fragrance. I was like, what in the world is this perfume? Who is spraying this perfume? And I just couldn't figure it out until I was walking around and looking around the house, and then noticed the flower stalk coming out of my corn plant, and got up close to smell it and was like, whoa, that's what it is. It's the first one I got to see. It was one of the most amazing things. And one of the things too is that I was living in this apartment complex, and one of my neighbors that lived in an apartment down the way from me mentioned to me about this smell. They're like, what is that? It's amazing perfume smell that's coming from over there. And I was like, and so I had to show him. I was like, you wouldn't believe it. It's this flower coming off of this plant in fact, I had grown that corn plant for years and never seen a flower off of it. Never even knew they could flower, in fact. And so it was one of the most amazing discoveries. And then years later, I got a newer corn plant, this one here, and years ago, it put off a flower, and I put that on my Instagram and all of that back when it did. And so I've already had a flower off of this once before, but one of the other stalks now is putting out another flower again a couple of years later. So again, just really amazing, really awesome. And I just had to share that with all of you as well too. I'm telling you, you're not going to see anything more or smell anything cooler than a corn plant flower. We can start saying that the desk is going to be loaded with pollen. Yeah, in fact, well, I don't know if it quite gets to the desk. It looks like it does from the screen, but it's actually, if you see from the picture, I'll show you that one picture again from above. It hangs over, so a lot of that pollen will probably fall right onto the right on. So I'm gonna have to put something down on the floor. In fact, it's probably good you mentioned that, because I wasn't thinking about that. There will be some pollen that comes off of these. It usually kind of collects up similar to like corn, like a corn leaf. That's why they call it a corn plant, because it has the leaves here that look so much like the leaves that come off of a corn plant, or your actual corn that we're growing in our gardens. And the pollen will collect on those and slide down into the plant. Where on corn is where you'll find the corn silks. But yeah, so I'm gonna have to put something down there to collect that pollen there and all of that. But man, I'm telling you, if only you could smell the room right now, and it's going to get only even better over the next week, and I'm really, really excited about that. So if you don't have a corn plant, go find one. These are pretty easily found in most of your garden centers, especially those big box stores. You see them all the time in like a Home Depot or a Lowe's or Walmart or that sort of thing. They're very, very common. And I don't know if I did. Let me see if I have in the picture here. If you can see, you can kind of see off to the side there that it's one of those really wood. It looks like they're like, it looks like in this case they're two wood poles, and they kind of grow out of the side of like what looks like wood poles that are in the soil. And those are a corn plant, and you can find those, like I said, really easily. And if you don't have one, go get one, just for the chance that someday you might get a cornflower in your house and get it to bloom. I mean, it's just, again, one of the most amazing things. Let's see. Let's see, Wickershire projects like, oh, this is not your normal corn variety. Yeah, okay, so yeah, it's not corn as in a corn we're growing. Yeah, in fact, I'm sure Jay put this in here. It's a Dracania florens or fragrans. Yeah, Dracania fragrans or Dracaena. I'm not even sure, but yeah, Jay put a nice link for us there in the comments section there. How to grow a in corn plant. So yeah, not the corn that we're growing for sweet corn or popcorn or whatever type of corn that you're growing outdoor in your garden. This is an indoor corn plant. Jay's like, next on YouTube for an extra $15 a month. Smell-o-vision. I mean, wouldn't it be great? It's the one thing I just don't know, man. It'd be great if we could. So I'm telling you, if I could can this or make something, or even if they could make like an actual perfume that was like this, it's just really amazing. And really, the only way you'll ever get to see or smell one is if you actually try to grow one yourself. So you say, go out and get yourself a corn plant. Oh, one last other thing I'll show you too is I got right up behind me. Let's see here, right up behind me, straight up, right here. In fact, here I got a picture. It's our spider plant we've got up here. The spider plant puts out these stems that come off of it, and on the stems will produce these little baby spiderlets. They have these little baby spiderlets, and that's basically what's hanging down there off of the plant, is all these spiderlets that are coming down off of the main plant, which is right up here. But they do also produce flowers, and this produced flowers, they're not, I was lucky to catch one of them before they all died off on me. They don't live very long, but here's one of those nice little white flowers that grows off of a spider plant. So this is a spider plant flower. And you got to really love and enjoy and appreciate those flowers that you get off of your indoor garden plants that you get as well too. So just really awesome. I'll show you one more time there. Indoor spider plant flower, and then our corn plant flowers. And hopefully those will pop out this week, and then I'll try to take a picture and share that with all of you all on next week's show, because definitely come and join with us next week. I didn't make a graphic for it, but next week we're going to have joining with us Texas Gardener Guy is going to be on with us next week. He's got a fun, cool garden podcast that he does on his YouTube channel, and he's been having some fun conversations and some things over there. So I thought it'd be great to have him on our show and check out and talk to him all about that sort of stuff too. So come join with us next week as we'll have him on the show. And next Sunday, we're going to try again as well too, next Sunday, to do a little garden roundtable with my good friend Christopher Bransdahl up in Norway, and joining with us, hopefully for sure this time, because we had a situation and he wasn't able to make our last discussion, but our good friend Kang Star from the Kang Star channel over on YouTube as well too. So Kang's a really great friend, and the three of us usually get together and talk about gardening throughout the gardening season each and every year over the last several years. So it'd be great to get them both back together again and have a fun gardening conversation with them this next Sunday as well too. So we've got some great fun shows coming up for you as well too in weeks to come. So definitely be sure to join with us for some of our shows next week, Saturday and Sunday, 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And before we leave here today, be sure hit that like button, click the thumbs up, hit the subscribe button as well too if you haven't already. Share with your friends, and get into the comment section and leave some comments. Again, that's something I'm really stressing right now and emphasizing a lot, is leave some comments, especially for some of those of you who've joined in just a little bit later in our live stream today, and are possibly going to go back and check out maybe earlier parts of it, or just go back and leave a comment if you can. I mean, the live stream comments are awesome, but the comments in what is the replay video of these live streams are really, really important too, for us to be seen a bit more by more people on the YouTube algorithm. So definitely jump in and hit up all of those comments too. And also, there's a link down below for our Facebook group, the Let's Get Growing group. And that's a really great place. If you haven't come and join with us there, definitely come and join with us and share with me some pictures of your garden. This is an awesome place where you get to share your gardens with all of us in the Let's Get Growing gardening community. So if you haven't done that yet, get down in below in the description that we have for the show here, and click the link for our Facebook group, the Let's Get Growing group, and come and share all of your gardens with all of us in the group. And again, too, you can share some questions you might have, all of that sort of stuff as well. So awesome show today. It was great to hang out with everybody here and talk all about all sorts of stuff. I mean, we covered lots of things from my neighbor's RV. I'm gonna have to go out there and make sure and see what they're up to, because I'm sure hopefully they got it figured out, or something, without having to cause any more problems. And what else we talk about? We talk about Bonnie plants and plant starts, blossom and rot, and of course discussing common ground gardening. So hope that you all had a really great day today joining with us. And see, like Connie says, everybody have a good week and stay safe with all this weather moving in. Dealing with one of those places where we're dealing with weather. Nancy, great show. Awesome. Thanks, Nancy. Wickershire, thank you. Mods, chat crew. Awesome. And Serena's asking, do I have a show tomorrow? It's a really good question. I really was, I might show up. I might do one, but kind of the idea was to kind of take the day off, and I might do that too. So check in, see. I mean, if I'm feeling up to it, I'll post a show link, at some point in time between now and then. Check in. But this is just going to be kind of a, we'll see if it happens or not kind of day, where I'm just kind of a planned day. I might have some things going on, but if some of those things that I'm working on don't necessarily go, I might go. So it's an who knows kind of situation. But we will definitely be back in full swing for the Let's Get Growing show next Saturday, 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and next Sunday for our Sunday edition as well at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, with some really great guests and some more fun gardening conversation. And just again, thank you all so much for it. Oh, and Wickershire says, okay, found the Facebook group. Yay, I get to spam pictures. Please do. I want to see all the pictures. I want to see everything. And from all of you guys out there, if you haven't had a chance yet, definitely get into that Facebook group, because I love, and it's a great place where we can interact throughout the week, besides when we're doing our show as well too. Is you can always leave some pictures and some questions or thoughts or comments or anything right there and share with everybody in our Facebook group. We love to see you there. Okay, awesome. And great to see you, Jersey Girl, Big Wes's Lawn Care. Thank you so much. And you all have just a really wonderful week. And we'll see you all next Saturday.